What's up, everyone? I'm John. Welcome back to Not a Podcast. Today I'm going at it solo. Hannah, my normal co-host, is not with me today. I'm still going to be doing some solo episodes in addition to episodes with guests and with Hannah as well. But today I have a guest in the form of Cecil, aka GoodBadFlicks. GoodBadFlicks is an ongoing web series of sorts where Cecil will go in, talk about, obviously as the title would imply, good movies that might be considered bad that he still enjoys. His exploring series where he talks about films, their production, interesting things that you might not know. Honestly, one of my favorite channels on YouTube I've been watching for about a year right now, so I was very happy that he agreed to come on the podcast. Also a Twitch streamer, a man of many trades. Welcome, Cecil.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
So talk to me a little bit about your starts on YouTube, because there's something that I noticed whenever I kind of went back and explored your channel. I noticed that GoodBadFlicks seems like it might have existed before YouTube, because I noticed that the series starts around episode 37, and I'm wondering where the original 37 episodes are.
Well, originally when I started on YouTube's competition at the time, which was a channel called Blip.tv. And I was over there because it just, at the time, YouTube was not exactly friendly to my kind of content, and a lot of people like the Nostalgia Critic and Brad Jones was over there, the Cinema Snob. And what had happened was, the reason why I even started doing this in the first place was I had been watching, movie reviews, video game reviews, all that kind of stuff on YouTube in the late 2000s. And I was really a big fan of James the Angry Video Game Nerd. I liked what he had done a lot. And I liked how he would talk about horror movies. He did his Monster Madness and all that. And but there were a lot of other channels out there, channels that were getting a lot of traction, that were doing nothing but taking a specific movie and just doing nothing but trashing it. And some movies, yes, they deserve to be, trashed. They're not good. But me, as somebody who I've had minor dealings in working in the film industry, mostly just, little nothing productions. But I know how even the smallest production, even bad movies, a lot of work goes into them and a lot of love goes into them. Like, nobody specifically goes in to make a movie terrible. And so I wanted to take a lot of these movies that were getting trashed and talk about the positive side. Talk about, hey, this is fun. This might be bad, but they did this really well. And initially, I started it on Blip, and I was really just sending it out to, like, my friends. I was like, hey, if I start talking about movies you never heard of, would you be interested in watching? And they were like, yeah, sure. And so I was sending out to them, and they liked it. And then it kind of grew from there. Like, I started getting messages from people that I didn't know. They were like, hey, I found your videos and I really enjoy them. And for about the first roughly 2 years, I was on Blip. Blip exclusively, and that was where the first 36 episodes were. And it got to a point where YouTube then started to become a little bit more friendly towards movie reviewers and that sort of thing.
Right.
And I wanted to expand because I could tell that there just was not growth at Blip. And the payout there was terrible. You could tell, like, they were just kind of spinning their wheels, and unless you were, like, huge, they didn't really promote you at all. They didn't push your stuff. So the first 36 episodes that I had, I was really just learning, and I also, like, I didn't really kind of grasp a lot of the finer details of how to do something and make it not infringing on copyrights and all that. Like, I had intros that were using, like, too much music, and so that was why I was like, okay, when I decided to move to YouTube, I was like, okay, I have to do this smarter. So I got a I licensed out a song for the intro from like one of those music warehouses, and I did like a freestanding intro that I was using, and then I was doing my videos and whatnot. And the first 36 episodes, I had people asking, you know, when could I see them? I'm like, well, at the time, you could still see them on Blip. I was like, I'm not going to bring them over to YouTube, because now if I bring them over, people are going to be like, what? This stuff sucks.
And it's a potential copyright issue too, probably.
Yeah, it's exactly. Well, that was the big thing too, is that, yeah, if I brought him over, I'd have to chop the intro out, and you know, have to explain to people, well, you know, I did this, you know, 2 years ago. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wasn't, you know, I was just kind of doing it for like friends, and they weren't particularly good. Audio quality sucked. The editing wasn't particularly all that good, and so I started taking it from there. So I started with YouTube on 37, and kind of grew from there. And within the first, like, I'd say within the first two, you know, God, not even 2 years, within the first year at YouTube, I had amassed a much larger following than I did at 2 years at Blip.
Right.
So I decided that I continued uploading stuff to Blip, but then I was also you know, delivering it to YouTube. And it got to the point of where once Maker bought Blip, then I was like, okay, they're going to put them out of business, because it was really clear that they came in, bought it, laid off a bunch of people, and then Disney bought Maker,
right,
and inadvertently inherited Blip. And I was like, the writing's on the wall, folks. Like, this channel is done. Like, they seriously, for about a year, they hadn't updated their main page. There were like dead links. There was just so many signs that like Blip was going out of business, which was hilarious, because then when they did go out of business, there were people that were like, oh my God, I can't, like people that were still uploading, and they're like, I make my living here. And it's like, God, you should have seen this coming, you know? And it was, I mean, it's sad, but it wasn't like with which I know we're going to get into this, but it's not kind of like what YouTube is doing now, is where they're just changing things, and like there's no rhyme or reason to why they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
Whereas with Blip, you could tell that Maker bought them and maybe had ideas of stuff that they were going to do with them, but then once Disney came in and bought them, Disney had no interest. And what is this? They more or less just inherited it, and then summarily, probably, I think the reason why they even hung on to it for as long as they did was they probably had some contractual obligations that they had to stick through. You know, okay, well, this guy is signed up for 2 years, we have to keep doing this or whatever. But once they got those things out of the way, they just shut it down completely.
Basically, once Todd in the Shadows and Nostalgia Critic and whoever else was big on Blip got their contracts fulfilled, they moved on to bigger and better things, because I know that they were some of the last ones kind of holding out on that platform.
Yeah, they were the only ones that were keeping it alive at that point. Like it was just pretty much all Channel Awesome people that were, you know, anybody who was worth anything was still on there. I know I know one guy in particular. I don't know. It's probably past the statute of limitations or whatever. But I know the Cinema Snob was like contractually obligated there for a while, so he kind of was hanging on, and he wanted to get out, but he like couldn't. And so yeah, I mean, it just it stunk, and it hurt some of them, because when Blip did close, there was a mass exodus of creators who went over to YouTube, and a lot of them that were doing really well on Blip are having a hard time on YouTube, because it's like they kind of came in after the gold rush, so to speak. So they're starting back at the ground floor and having to build up. Now, like Nostalgia Critic, I think he's doing better than he ever did at Blip, because it's a much bigger audience. He's got way more of a reach here. And while he did have to kind of start back at zero, I think like he quickly jumped, you know, to 100,000 subscribers, like, you know, within that first couple of months. And then I think last time I looked, he's at like 700,000. I mean, he's just he's doing very well, but there's a lot of other ones that are struggling on there.
Yeah, it's your top creators that aren't going to be struggling all that much. I mean, like you said, the biggest ones that had the most loyal followings over there, some of them had Patreon accounts and that sort of thing. So obviously people were engaged with them on there, or else on Twitter, following them outside of that. So they didn't have a hard time transitioning, because I see people like Nostalgia Critic and obviously Todd in the Shadows. I don't know how familiar you are with his channel and his work, but I mean, I know he's got a very, very supportive fan base and that sort of thing, and they instantly jumped him up over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it seems like he's kind of flourishing more than ever there as well.
That's good. Yeah, I never, I know him more or less in name only. I don't really, it's funny because I get a lot of people that ask me, they're like, what channels do you follow? Who do you watch? And I'm like, to be perfectly honest, I'm so busy with movie reviews and with contacting movie directors and whatnot to do interviews for future episodes and all that. And like you said, I do Twitch as well. And I also do a podcast called Radiodrome on Sunday nights. So it's like, I really, if I have any downtime, I usually kind of make it like me time. Like, I'm like, okay, I have like 2 hours where I don't have to do anything, which is rare. So maybe I'll play World of Warcraft for a couple hours, or just watch a movie that I want to watch as opposed to something that I want to watch because I have to review it. Just something like that. I mean, I have channels that I do watch. Like if I see there's a new Red Letter Media, like if they're going to do another one of those Star Wars things, like they did with, they just did one for Ghostbusters. Like I'll sit down and watch that for an hour or something, and it's funny. But as far as like their Wheel of the Worst and all that, like I just don't have time. So, but and it sucks because it's like I don't want to be like, I'm not being elitist or anything. It's just like I have guys that I like my buddies. I have a channel called Reckless Eating, good friends of mine, and they eat like really weird, awful food. And every now and then they'll do something where I'm like, okay, I can't not watch this episode. Like they did one where they had 3 guys. They every now and then they'll do like a full menu challenge where the last time they went to McDonald's and they ordered every single item on the menu, and 3 guys had to eat it in like an hour or something, and it was hilarious because they're getting towards the end and they're like, oh, I don't want to do this, and like it was really funny. But again, it's just stuff that if I have time to watch it, or I'll watch it in segments or whatnot. But so as far as like Todd in the Shadows and all that, like I'm sure he does a good job. Like I said, I've heard of him before, but a lot of them I just don't watch because I don't have the time.
Right. I think you bring up a good point there, too, with what you said about, kind of doing things for your own personal enjoyment whenever you do have free time. And obviously, with both of us being creators, we both stay very busy with whatever it is what we do. And I obviously still work a part-time job as well, in addition to what I do here on YouTube, running 2 different channels. And it's something where you have to, you can't always be like on YouTube. You kind of have to take yourself out of that element sometimes. And I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I get so stressed out and bogged down because I'll just be focusing on YouTube, and I feel like I'm on that site or working on a video or something all day or all week, whatever it might be. There's always something, but you kind of have to take yourself out of that sometimes and think about, what is it that makes me happy? I need to focus on, still being able to create, but at the same time also being able to take time to just maybe listen to something or watch something for your own enjoyment, not because you need to have an opinion on it or you need to have a video on it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that it's really important for another reason too, is that if you just immerse yourself in the internet, if you just get yourself into that mindset where you're on Twitter and you're on Facebook, and it kind of messes with your head. Like you do need that time to give yourself some clarification. Okay, I am not doing this right now. I am not on. I can just relax. And you need that to unwind because, like, I'm at a point right now where I try to respond to people as much as I can, but it's getting ridiculous. Like, I mean, I'm getting, I'm on Twitch, Facebook, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, and there are so many ways to contact me. And so I am constantly getting bombarded with questions and requests and stuff, and it's kind of hard to filtrate through that. And there are questions that I'll see somebody ask that I just don't have time to answer, or I'll get inundated with the same person giving me the same request day after day after day, and messages that's, oh, you gotta talk about this, or you suck, it's like and it's like it's both good and bad. And sometimes people will get angry if they will write to you and and you don't respond. And
so it's like, oh, you're too good to reply, you're getting too big to reply to me anymore. You used to reply to every comment.
Exactly. And it's like look, I mean, in a way, it's not that I'm like too big, like egotistical wise, it's just that the sheer volume that comes in, it's just I would have to create another me to do this. And that's the other thing too, is a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, you guys are great, you guys do a great job, and I'm like, it's one guy. Like I'm just one person that does all of this. Like I am not I am not Screen Junkies or somebody where they have like a team of people and they have like a social media presence and everything. I answer all the questions. I do all my interviews. I talk, I record, edit, do everything. And I kind of do enjoy that I have like full creative control over everything. But on the same token, sometimes it's just exhausting because there's just so much demand. And I do love it. Like, I never want to sound like I'm unhappy or bitching about it, because I genuinely love what I do. I'm ecstatic that I'm able to continue doing this. But there is a weird amount of persistence on some people's part, where they think that because they watch your channel or whatever, that they deserve something. And it's like, I want to give you as much as possible, but there has to come a time where there is some sort of limit. I need sleep. I need to spend time with my family.
There's a line of what makes sense for me to be able to do to as far as I can push myself, and there has to be a line where you cut that off. And it's funny that you bring up the whole thing with it just being one person, because I feel like I kind of dug myself into a hole because I started introducing myself as John from ARTV, implying that there would be somebody else from ARTV as well. There's not. It's just me.
So yeah, similar boat. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy, and it is funny because a lot of people, at least for me, like when I do, I'm like, hey, it's just me, and they're like, oh my god, they're like, really? Like, how do you do it? And I'm like, oh, lots of coffee, and just
lots of late nights.
Yeah, lots of late nights, bags under the eyes, whole 9 yards, and like just an absolute passion for doing it. Like if I didn't love this, I don't think I would have continued on as long as I did. Because I had somebody ask me the other day, they're like, hey man, what can I do to get to where you are? And I was like, well, first of all, I don't even know if it's possible anymore with this current state of YouTube. But I'm like, but also you have to be willing to work and do the best that you can, do the best that you possibly can, under the notion that you may never make it. Like when I was doing this for about 4 years, I was working full-time as a video editor, and I was working actually also full-time doing this on the side. And I was giving up just so much of my free time and just doing nothing but this to in the hopes that I would be able to succeed. But initially, like that first 4 years that I was doing this, I didn't know like where it was going. And I think in the process of those 4 years, I think I made like $300. And so I was trying to convey that I'm like, look, you could do this for a year and blow up, and you could do this for 10 years and never make it. So there's no real way of knowing like how things are going to turn out. You just have to like really hope that you're going to do it. Like there have been people who I've known that have gotten into this and have just given up after a couple of months. They're like, oh, this is too hard. And it's like,
yeah,
well,
you're not seeing any results. Then that some people just don't have the mindset of, oh, I have to keep pushing because this isn't going to happen overnight. Some people are looking for those instant, even if instant is within 6 months type results, you know?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, there have been overnight success stories. It's rare, but they are some of them out there that just have blown up. But then there's other people who have just, you know, slogged at it and done it over and just nothing's happened. I was doing it for about 4 years and wasn't really seeing much results. And then I got a video that I had done, WTF Happened to movie posters, went viral. And I like had a massive surge of subscribers and people like that were checking out my backlog that were like, oh my God, you know, this is awesome. Why have I never heard of this before? And that was my first insight of, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. I might be able to turn this into something. So that was when I started to get like really serious. And I started to, I mean, I was serious before, but like I still kind of had it in my head. I'm like, I don't know where this is going. And once that happened, I was like, okay, I'm on the right path. I might be able to turn this into something, which ended up being a really good thing because I was at PAX that year, and I had I went to a panel from a website called The Escapist. And they're the guys that they have Yahtzee, who does the video game reviews, and really, you know, just insanely popular character.
Oh yeah,
and I went to one of their panels, and afterwards I went up and introduced myself, and I was like, hey, you know, really love you guys. Gave them I had business cards, and I was like, hey, you know, I would love to work with you at some point. And in 2015, like early 2015. I had contacted the editor-in-chief at the time and was like, "Hey, wanted to see if you guys were looking for a movie reviewer or anything." And he was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'd heard, you know, I remembered you had spoke to one of our guys at PAX, blah blah blah." And he's like, "I really like your stuff," and like they hired me to work freelance with them. So that helped me to grow my channel and also give me a little bit of legitimacy. So it was like, hey, you know, I'm on The Escapist as well as YouTube. That's kind of a big deal. And then in that June, my boss called me into his office and was like, hey, I just want to let you know we're going to lay you off. And I was like, oh. So and the thing is, he was a friend of mine. He's still a friend of mine. He was like, he let me know before the company let me know. So the next day was when I officially got brought downstairs, and the HR person was like, you know, we're gonna have to let you go, and like she's like like sitting there like waiting for like me to flip out or something, and I'm like, all right.
Security standing in the corner, like,
I know,
just in case.
Well, apparently, like somebody flipped a table, and like so there were some people that were really pissed. I mean, I had been there for 8 years, and so I kind of knew it was coming because there was a lot of nonsense that I worked for a college, and I knew that they were going through a lot of and they ended up laying off like 160 people. So it wasn't like they let me go and like nobody else. So they let like,
yeah, we're just gonna let you go. Sorry.
Yeah, we're letting you. You pulled the shortest straw. You suck. Get out. So I had come home and I talked to my wife and I said, look, I've got 7 months of severance. And I've got money coming in from YouTube. I've got money coming in from Patreon. I've got money coming in from The Escapist. I think if ever I'm going to make this work as a full-time job, I think now is the time.
And that's got to light the fire under you too. You know, it's basically like, okay, I've got to put myself into this. I've got to make this work.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It was like there was no option. You know, it was like, all right, now I have to make it work. This cannot fail. So I started putting a lot, you know, more time, effort, everything in, because it's like, okay, well now I've got, you know, where I did it the other job full time, and then I did this full time. Now I've got more time to dedicate to this to make it better. And so I worked harder, and I mean, I'm putting out, you know, a new episode every Monday. I'm putting out movie reviews every Friday. I started doing the Twitch channel, and just doing more interaction with the fans, doing more stuff in general. And so that was kind of what I wanted to convey to this one dude. I'm like, look, I was working for 4 years on this and made, like, I would have starved to death if I was working using Blip and YouTube as a paycheck. But because I worked really hard and I got better, and I managed to get the gig with The Escapist as well as YouTube, and kind of diversifying, making sure, okay, I'm not reliant on one source of income. Then that was how things were able to sustain. And then early around July of July's a bad month. July of 2017, The Escapist. Well, actually, they kind of goofed. They they laid off a bunch of people in like April, May, and then it kind of hit me a little bit later. And then they finally, so they're like, well, we're not going to be able to keep you on as freelance with the movie stuff. However, I freelance with them on doing like some news stuff. Like I did some news. Like I took pictures for their cosplay gallery at PAX early this year. Okay. And they also have me working. I occasionally will jump on to their Twitch channel and we'll stream on there for a couple hours. And because they have a bunch of their personalities. They have John, who kind of runs things, and then Yahtzee comes in and does videos or does streams like twice a week, and I jump in there like once a week. And the kind of thing was like, I'm like, okay, well, I want to do this, but I don't want to take away from my Twitch channel. So I was like, I do it like in the morning, and then I do my Twitch channel in the evening. And but again, it's all about putting yourself out there, and just taking up so much of your time, but loving it, but also like it's exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, I was on a similar playing field there, with the fact that I did it for many years before. I started obviously with just the one channel before splitting it off into ARTV, beyond ARTV, and I think I know it was September of 2009 when I originally launched my main channel, and it probably was, I think, 2013, 14 before I even crossed the 10,000 subscriber mark, which was, it's not even something that I initially really thought about all that much, because obviously, you're working or going to school or whatever else, and, you're kind of not thinking about the fact that you're not seeing a ton of return. And I think during those first few years, it was so easy for me to just continue putting out content because I didn't have any expectations. And I had done YouTube in the past. I had done sketch channels and that sort of thing. And it was always kind of like for fun. And for starting a music channel, it was more of like, I want to get an opinion out to people because none of my friends know what I'm talking about with the music that I'm into, or else they're not anywhere near as passionate about it. So it was kind of an outlet there, and it was fun. And it can get harder kind of once you continue on with YouTube, because you start seeing that success. And I think the moment for me where I started to kind of see a big boost in subs, I got, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the channel, The Needle Drop, but I got a shout out from him in a video, and he's now a 1 million+ subscriber channel, and that was a big boost. And I also got featured on a Watch Mojo list, which, not a huge fan of their content and channel, but I can't say that I'm not grateful for the shout out there, because I mean, I've got thousands of subscribers just from that. And I think once there started to be more expectations, I guess, on me, the harder it was to find motivation sometimes. And I don't know how you feel as a creator, but I wanted to ask you about kind of burning out. Do you feel like that sometimes? Because I know I definitely struggle with it, and sometimes it can be like a monthly thing. I feel like I go through a cycle where, I don't know what videos to make, or I don't know what I'm going to cover next. And then I'm on fire. I have 5 ideas, or I've got big topics that I need to cover, a lot of news going on in the music community and stuff that week. So I have a lot of videos, and then the next week I could just feel totally demotivated.
For me, it's a weekly thing. Like every Sunday night, I will upload the current video, and then it launches on Monday. And I'll go upstairs to go to bed. My wife will be like, how's the episode? And I'm like, it's the worst thing I've ever done. And she's like, you say that every week, and I'm like, oh, it's because every week it's true. And then the next day, I get, oh my god, best video, this is great, and it's just, it's for me, like, it's not that I'm never happy, and I'm not a perfectionist, but like I don't know, I have like not some kind of mental thing, I don't know what it is, but it's like I never really, I get to a point of where I'm like, okay, I've worked really hard on this is as good as it's going to get, and I kind of release it to the wild and hope for the best. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and then thankfully for the most part it's good. But I get and I think this is another thing a lot of people go through. I'll get 100 comments of, oh, this was great, this was so wonderful, you did such a great job, I love this, I love your channel so much, it's the it makes me so happy on Mondays. And then I get like you mispronounced this person's name. And I'm just like, oh, God.
You honed in on that one thing out of the entire video. That's the only part that you took away from this.
Yeah.
It gets to you sometimes. It really does. And, sometimes you, as a creator, I feel like focus on those moments more than you do the maybe hundreds or even thousands of comments that are shouting, great video, I love this, instead of just the, oh, you suck, why are you talking about this? Or, like you said, the mispronunciation thing is a huge thing that some snobs like to focus on, and they, will just be like, oh, I can't take you seriously, you can't even say this last name correctly.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, there are times where if I'm not sure, I will go and like check it out, and sometimes I'll still get it wrong, because there'll be names that there's no way of finding out how to properly pronounce it, or it'll be listed in a way and I'm like, well, that's not how that person pronounces it or something. Like, I mean, if now I know his name is Rafe Fiennes, or at least that's how he pronounces it, but if I was somebody who had never heard of the guy before, I would say, Ralph Fiennes, and people, oh, that's not how you pronounce his name. And I'm like, oh my God, come on. Like, cut me a break. It's spelled like Ralph, but he pronounces it differently. So I can't, I have so much research that I do on every exploring episode that unfortunately I don't have time to look up how to pronounce every single person's name, and it's just it's such a throwaway thing, because the times that I did go and look it up, I ended up still getting it wrong. So I'm like, you know what, I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just gonna be like, you know what, here's somebody's name and I think I know how to pronounce it correctly, and if I'm not entirely sure, if I have time, I'll look up and see, but otherwise I'm not going to even bother. I'm just going to do it and whatever. But yeah, there are little nitpicky things that people throw out, and it does kind of, it eats at me. Now, one of the big things that I will say that has helped was whenever I would see a video that would blow up, I would go on Google and would kind of look and try to find out where it blew up from. I'd be like, oh, okay, this, went to this movie Reddit, and I'll go.
Did this subreddit share it? Did this website pick it up? That sort of thing. Yeah, I've been in the same position where you're looking through the analytics, trying to dig out like who was sharing it or where people were watching this.
Yeah, where did this end up? And like, I just basically now am at the point of where if I see a video blow up, I will not search for where it got posted, because I would, oh, it got shared on Reddit. Oh, this is awesome. And it's like the first comment is like, hey, this is a really good video, you should watch it. This video sucks.
Yeah, this dude's got no idea what he's fucking talking about. Look at this jack off.
This guy's got a punchable voice. His voice makes me want to punch him in the face. And so I'm just like, you know what? And that would just eat at me. And I'm like,
Oh.
So
It absolutely gets under. It gets totally under your skin, and it's so. We bring up Reddit. I within the past 2 weeks did that. I did a. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the band Brand New, but I covered their album, their first one that had come out in 8 years, and it was doing not like, oh my god, like next level well, but it was within a couple of days it was racking up more views than I normally get. And I noticed that a Reddit user had tweeted about finding it there. So I go into the Brand New subreddit just to see, oh, there it is. It got posted. And then, there's a few nice comments to first start off like, oh, yeah, I love this guy's videos. And then a couple of saying, oh, this fucking guy. oh, this. Like, oh, my God. He, this dude also likes this band. Can't take it seriously. Da-da-da-da-da. So I know exactly where you're coming from on that. And it can get, it gets under your skin. It can get kind of demotivating, and that kind of leads me into my next big point that I want to talk to you about, something that is going on with your channel in particular, and I know that this is not motivation for you at all. It's something that I have seen, but just the slightest extent. I am not, guys, anybody listening, I am not dealing with it anywhere nearly as bad, or else, knock on wood, I have not been hit as hard as Cecil's channel has. But GoodBadFlicks right now on YouTube is going through kind of a demonetization battle. It's one of those things where you might have heard some of your favorite creators talking about just these rolling waves of videos just getting demonetized. And I mean, you're talking 140 of your videos or something like that are currently pending. And the worst part about it is that YouTube isn't notifying him or any of these other creators, just like they don't notify me, or, if I'm dealing with something like that, or if I'm dealing with, say a third party put a claim to share revenue on a video or something like that. YouTube's not talking to its creators. And while this is nothing new, at the same time, you would think that a company owned by Google, a company with as many employees as it does have, you'd think that you could at least get an automated email saying, this video has been demonetized. And obviously, you guys are probably familiar with the whole idea of the YouTube adpocalypse and how sensitive things are with advertisers, and YouTube's looking for all these new ways to block certain keywords or, thumbnails or, the metadata in a video and that sort of thing. Why do you think it is that they're honing in on your channel specifically right now?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's me specifically. I think it's just me and other channels like me. I mean, I primarily focus on horror and exploitation, and I mean, I talk about a lot of popular movies, but as well as a lot of B movies and stuff. And I think that the algorithm is just according to what some people have found, like people have gone on to test the algorithm and see what they can find. And because YouTube, of course, isn't going to tell us anything. So it's like, we got to figure it out for ourselves. So there have been people that are like, okay, it looks through your thumbnail. And there was one person who he posted the same video 4 times. And the one thumbnail, it had like a bunch of names of guns, and then that got flagged. And he posted the same video. It was just, the video itself was blank. The video was just 10 seconds of just a blank screen. And then, but the thumbnail had a bunch of names of guns in it. Then the second one, the thumbnail had a bunch of names of like drugs in it. And then I forget what the other one was, but then one, it was a thumbnail and it was a picture of a dog. And that one was advertiser friendly. So it's like, okay, it's picking up on that. And then some people have noticed, okay, there are certain words that are getting flagged. Violence, horror, terror, macabre, and anything that is like, that could be possibly construed in a negative way. So that really throws a wrench into things like, hey, I want to do a review of Terror Vision. And that was what hit me. I was in the middle of working on a video for a movie called The Final Terror, and it's an old, like, it's a really, like, I mean, I'll be honest, the story behind the movie is more interesting than the actual movie. The actual movie isn't bad, but the story that they went through to get the movie made is really interesting. So I was working on that for an exploring episode, and I was streaming on Wednesday night a couple weeks ago, and I had jumped on Twitter for whatever reason while I was streaming, and saw that Boogie2988 had posted, "Hey, I just got a bunch of my Francis videos were hit with the demonetization bug, or demonetization bot," and I was like, "Oh God, Boogie got hit." So I'm like, you know what? Let me go see how I'm doing, and I went and I looked. And I just, I felt like just the floor fall out from under me, because I was like, I didn't even get a message. I didn't get any kind of alert. Just, oh, look, my entire channel is just all the golden $sign, which means that limited or no ads, which pretty much means,
it means no ads.
It means no ads.
We all know what that means. I mean, YouTube can sugarcoat it however they want to, but what's the craziest part to me is that in the past, if you ever had like a claim on a video or anything like that, I feel like they did a better job at getting emails out to people. But now, like you said, it's just like your whole you sink into the floor basically, because you're just like, holy shit, I just had my whole life basically demonetized. Someone just ripped out everything from my bank account and said, oh, you don't even have a chance to get this looked at unless you're getting, 1,000 views in a week or something. They won't even review it. And even then, it's only a manual review. It's not even like somebody, like a person is sitting down and like watching this, deciding if it's advertiser friendly.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I went down the list with everybody that was on the channel, and I was like, here's what's demonetized. And I started listing, and it was just page after page after page of demonetized videos. And finally I was like, I planned on streaming for another couple hours. I was like, guys, I can't. I'm like, I have to go. I'm like, I'm not in the right mindset to keep going tonight. So I went and I contacted my MCN, and I was like, this is, and they were like, oh yeah, we're aware of this. And they were, kind of talking me through a lot of stuff. And so basically what I then did was, the next day I went on and spent the next several hours having to counter all of my I did catalog all of the videos that were that were demonetized, and I sent it to my MCN, who is my contact, and he's like, look, I'm going to try to get as many of these resolved as I can. So he came back after a couple days, and he was like, hey, you should, and I'd noticed I was getting some of them back, and he's like, I got as many as I could. Now whatever's left over, go in and manually confirm, counter them, and let me know how it goes. And so I had started, it was like 300 some videos and 10 pages demonetized. He got it down to 5. But,
so basically half of them were basically eligible for monetization again.
Yeah, half of them were eligible for monetization again. And a lot of the ones that were not, that he couldn't get, were ones that they wouldn't review because they only had, they didn't have 1,000 views that week. And the thing was, that's just ridiculous. I actually did a video about it. I'm like, a lot of them were like 700, 800, 900 views that week. And I'm like, that, if you compile 150 videos and each of them has anywhere from, say, 400 to 900 views, and add all that up, it ended up being like 500,000 views. I'm like, that's a car payment. That's groceries. That's, that's part of like your mortgage. I'm like, that's like just nothing that you want to sneeze off. It's just nothing. Oh, well, you just got to let it go. So it's like, no, I don't want to let it go. Like, I worked really hard for this, and I should be getting paid for it. And I felt that the majority of them were absolutely advertiser friendly. There are certain ones that I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna be nitpicky about it, all right, there's gore in here, But meanwhile, if you look at what are the most popular shows on TV right now? Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead. And
and it's a blood fest.
Yeah, and my stuff is essentially no worse than that. I mean, I have. As far as my content, I say the majority of it is about hard PG-13, and occasionally it goes into R-rated territory. But I don't go out of my way to make things filthy. I don't go out of my way to revel in anything, so to speak. and it's really frustrating. So I then I did that. And I was working, like I said, I was working on the final terror for that week, and I had to put together a video and tell, my patrons and, people in the channel, hey, where's the new video? Because every Monday I put out a new video, and I was like, look, simply, if I would have put the final terror up, it would have gotten flagged. And the thing that sucks is what I think a lot of people aren't seeing is that when you put a video up, let's say I go, like, whenever I would put something up, I would put it in scheduled. So I would say, okay, I'm uploading a video. I'm going to schedule it. It'll show up Monday afternoon at 1 p.m. Well, I upload it, and then it gets clicked by the bot, and it gets demonetized. Now, I can counter it, but it doesn't have that 1,000 views yet because it's just brand new. So I have to then make it go public, and then it'll get 1,000 views. I have it countered, and then it gets 1,000 views, and then they'll review it. Well, they have 7 to 10 days to get back. Now, as of currently, they've usually been anywhere from like 24 to 48 hours of getting back. But the problem is when you upload a new video, you get
That's
the most.
When you're getting you're getting your views then.
Yeah, you're getting the most views 24 to 48 hours. So by the time they come back where they're like, okay, you can monetize, this can be monetized, you've already lost out on all those views. And I mean, unless the video goes viral down the road, you're not going to make as much as you did in that first jump. So it's really screwing out people who would be making that, the lion's share of views and revenue in that first couple hours, 24 hours. And now they're just getting hosed by it. And they need to figure out a new method. Like, if you upload a new video and you put it on private or whatever, like, they should have to check it before it goes live, because what's the sense in, okay, I'm going to make this go live. All right, well, it's not advertiser friendly. All right, well, then maybe I'll try to put up another version, or and it
or just edit the thumbnail or something.
Edit the thumbnail, or we don't even know. I mean, we have a basic idea of what is not ad friendly. But even still, like, there are things that don't make any sense. Like, there's a really big channel called Lazy Game Reviews, and his stuff is like G-rated. He talks about like old DOS games. There is like nothing controversial or bad about his channel whatsoever, and he had a whole bunch of his things flagged, and it just doesn't make any sense. There's really no rhyme or reason.
And that contradicts kind of what YouTube says with it being suitable. Well, first of all, I don't understand this, but second of all, the statement itself is that the content needs to be appropriate for a 5-year-old. I mean, like, don't you have to be at least 13 years old to have a YouTube account?
Yeah, that's the thing. You have to be 13 years old to have a YouTube account. And what again, going back to the video that I put out, let's say you make content that is marketed towards 5-year-olds. Budweiser, like condoms, cars, washing machines, all of these televisions, Target stores, like, they all run ads on YouTube. Who is this market? Like, a kid is going to be the target demo for a Budweiser ad. A kid isn't going to be the target demo for an R-rated Red Band trailer. And yet here we are. Like, somebody had sent me a picture. They said, this is ridiculous. My kid watches like Lego unboxings, and the commercial that ran before the video was a trailer for It.
Oh my God.
It's like, you want to make this content be, kid friendly, but then your ads themselves are not kid friendly.
It's okay. That really, I hadn't, obviously, I'm not out looking for the content that, I don't even know what the primary 5-year-old target is, but I'm assuming like unboxing, the whole, Spider-Man or Frozen videos, whatever they're looking at and that sort of thing. But I have seen screenshots of the exact same thing that you're talking about, where they're getting a Trojan ad on, this Frozen Elsa and Spider-Man doing this. And the fact is that these advertisers, they're not even looking for 13-year-olds. You know, they're looking for like 21 and up, most likely, especially if it's a beer commercial or if it's a condom commercial or even a car commercial, because what 16-year-old, I mean, yeah, they might say, okay, dad, buy me this car, but what 16-year-old is it really infiltrating their mind with the fact that they can't just go buy the car? You know, they're not even thinking about their target demos with where the ads are reaching.
Yeah, it's ludicrous because I look at my target demo and my stuff, not surprisingly, it is enjoyed by adults. The vast majority of people that watch my channel are ages from like 18 all the way through, I think, like 55, and like for them to say, okay, well, you're getting that sweet spot of this is exactly who we want to market to, but we want you to change your content to market it towards somebody who, number one, has no interest in your content and will never be able to buy anything that we try to sell them.
What do you think the solution is to all this? Like, what's going to clean this up? I mean, where do we even see YouTube a year down the road?
I don't know. I mean, right now there's so many just the conspiracy tinfoil hat theories, but anymore you don't even know, because some of it's like, you know what, it's ludicrous, but this makes about as much sense as anything. Where some people are saying they're really just trying to get rid of a lot of their channels so that they can make it more friendly to like HBO and NBC and all that, because that's the other thing that kind of bothers me, that I when it first happened, I kind of flipped out on Twitter a little bit, and I was like, you know, YouTube, you know, you're telling me that like my content where I talk about, you know, passionately about horror movies or passionately about B movies or just movies and television and video games in general, but like that's not advertiser friendly. But you've got John Oliver who can swear up a storm, and that's no problem. You know, you've got HBO that's going to run, that's going to have clips of Game of Thrones of people being decapitated. You're going to have all kinds of stuff that really is so much like, and I don't think that they should be censored. I don't have a problem with that, but I would like a little bit of transparency for them to tell us, you know, what's going on, but also a little bit of a level playing field. It's already difficult to compete with these monstrous channels and to compete with major networks like NBC and ABC and all them. Like, they have teams of writers and producers and all that, and I'm just one guy that's doing all this, you know, out of my office. And for them to really cater so much towards them and let them get away with essentially murder, for, you know, lack of a better description, but for them to be able to get away with whatever they want to do, and their stuff is absolutely not being demonetized, they're not dealing with any of this, but to constantly screw over all the other people that have worked really hard on this and have worked for years to build up an audience. And and this takes me to get off on a brief tangent. When I was looking today to see, you know, what videos had been demonetized, at the top of my dashboard, I have, "You're invited to YouTube Creator Days in Washington, D.C. Learn how to grow your channel and business from our advanced workshops." And it's just like, you have people that say, don't rely, you know, YouTube is not a job, but then it's like, they're kind of beholden to being a job, because right here they're saying grow your channel and, you know, and learn business in our workshops. They're trying to constantly promote it as a sustainable job and as a platform, but then they pull this kind of stuff. And I understand that they're willing, you know, I mean, there's the whole thing, they are a business, they're able to kind of do things the way they want to. But you know what, as somebody who is working under them but doesn't really have a contract per se with them, I am perfectly allowed to bitch about things when they screw things up. You know what, I'm supposed to just sit back and just accept whatever they're going to throw at us? I think.
Oh yeah, 110%. I mean, I think it's definitely, you're in the right there. I do the same thing. I feel that I'll lash out in the same way if something like that happens, and then people act like, you know, like you brought up before, like, oh, you know, this isn't a job. Well, what defines a job? is it working? Is it putting in effort and going through and doing tasks to get basically an assignment done or to get a project done? Then, and in return, you are used to receiving something for the work that you do because it's consumed by others. It's really no different than the old formula of creating something for a TV network or for a movie studio or whatever it might be. It's the idea that, you know, somebody's actually creating it, somebody's actually putting in the time, and, you know, no, it's not necessarily a regular compensation because we don't have a set salary or anything like that, but still it's work. And I think, honestly, I kind of feel like saying fuck you to anybody that doesn't feel like anybody deserves to be paid for what they do for their work on YouTube, and for anybody who has kind of the nerve to insult somebody for going to Patreon or whatever else it might be that they rely on for extra income to go with the work that they do on YouTube.
Absolutely. And it's ridiculous because you have people that will say, you know, YouTube was better when it was just people doing this as a hobby. And I'm like, well, you know what would happen if YouTube never progressed to this level? It would still be a hobby, and it would be nothing but people uploading garbage. Like if you go back and you watch like a lot of the really old YouTube videos, it's just bad quality junk of people farting into the camera. There's no effort. There was no work. I mean, occasionally you would get something that had an element of talent behind it. And a lot of the people like that were the ones that actually went on and made that into something. But if you go all the way back and look at the really old videos on YouTube, a lot of them are just garbage, or they're re-uploads of something. It's, hey, here's this old TV show, and it's like YouTube would not be what it is now if they didn't open up the whole ad sharing thing. That was when
Right.
it became feasible, where it was like, okay, hey, I can, you know, if I work really hard, I might be able to make this into a job. And the way I kind of look at it is a similar way to what you said. Is it's like, are people paying me in one way, shape, or form? If they are paying for me through Patreon, or if they're watching ads, or if they're you know, buying merchandise or something, and if I'm paying taxes on it, that's a job.
If it's legitimate on paper, we get the form every year to file for our taxes, and you say what you will, but I mean, like you said, it's a job. And it's honestly I've seen it put people out of work, you know, with some of the channels that are just completely non-advertiser friendly, like some gaming channels on YouTube that obviously with the whole gun ban essentially on YouTube, all of the gun channels, not that I necessarily am in tune with what's going on these channels, but I've just seen a lot of them shut down, and it's not necessarily something that I would watch, but at the same time, I don't feel like they should be just stripped away like that with their monetization. There should be specific ads maybe catered more to those types of channels. But think about it. I mean, think about who Budweiser is going to want to market to. Maybe they want to have their ads on a certain type of channel rather than just, I don't know, pulling every single ad from one channel that revolves around games or revolves around guns. I think that's what the future of advertising needs to progress towards. It needs to be like, okay, this kids channel needs to have ads that are maybe about Legos or the Lego movie or Lego Batman. I keep saying Lego, but you get the point. You know, like that type of advertising catered towards kids. And then you need to have something for like movies. Okay, how many movie trailer ads do we get whenever we watch movie related content? Sometimes yes, but sometimes it's something completely unrelated. Maybe there should be something that triggers keywords in the systems to send certain types of ads that way. Because if you think about it, I mean, I don't know how many times I've watched a video of yours or Jeremy Johns or Chris Stuckman, and I just get the most random ad that has nothing to do with movies. You know, it could be an ad literally for Legos or something like, I don't know. I can't even think of some of the crazy ones that I've seen, but you know, the type of things that they put on ads, there's no rhyme or reason to it, and they're just all over the place. I think the future of ads on YouTube needs to be a little bit more direct in terms of like what they're pushing their ads towards. It needs to line up with the content that it's being shown on.
Absolutely. It's hilarious because YouTube, or not YouTube, but Google is, and I keep using this because somebody said it a couple weeks ago, and it's the perfect description. YouTube and their vampiric sucking of your data like they have this massive thing where they just know everything about you. You go onto Gmail and there's ads that are tailored towards you, and then you go here and it's just things are, everything is tailored towards you because they just take every, all of your searches and all of that stuff, and they just will filtrate that and spit it out. But for some reason, when it comes to YouTube, like you said, it's like I'm gonna go watch a movie trailer or I'm gonna go watch a movie review, and you'll get some random commercial that doesn't make any sense. The only thing that makes sense is occasionally I'll get people, like I did like The Dark Tower. I did a review on it, and before The Dark Tower was a trailer for The Dark Tower.
That makes
perfect sense. Run a trailer for the movie before the review that you see. Like something like that makes sense. But a lot of times it's just some random thing that doesn't make any sense, and it really just confuses me as to they have so much raw data where they could really target the perfect ad to put in front of you, and yet you just get some random soap commercial. It doesn't make any sense. And another thing, and this was something that I had written about recently, just this morning, actually. I said, what a lot of people don't seem to get is that thousands of creators followed YouTube's rules to the letter, and now we're being punished because they changed the rules. So it's like we did everything that we were supposed to, but because they screwed up, and we're putting, they weren't really keeping an eye on where the ads were going. Now everyone else is being punished. And
everyone's paying for somebody else, or else even like something that could have been like generated. There could have been a program in place to automatically ding videos that are clearly hate speech or whatever else it might be. So, like you said, everybody else is paying for the smallest of mistakes, the smallest of percentage on YouTube that was by no means what popular creators or even rising creators were talking about in their videos. But as a result, everything is up in the air every week. I never know, even if my videos aren't considered, like it doesn't say that they've been not advertiser friendly. I find that a lot of my videos for the first, even if I upload them, put them as unlisted, scheduled or whatever beforehand, let them sit there. I've tried a lot of different things, and it's just sometimes the video doesn't have ads on it for the first 24 to 48 hours. And there's really no apparent reason after that. They'll start rolling in, and it's just like we talked about before. That's the main time whenever you get your views, and you miss out on the revenue as a result.
Yeah, and it's a real kick in the wallet, because sure, I mean, you do this for the passion, you do this for the love of doing it. I absolutely love doing it, but at the end of the day, it is a job, and we do need to be paid for it. And the simple fact that we can do it is it is awesome. It is great that but to like work towards it and then to have it pulled out from under you for doing nothing wrong. Like YouTube, it's not like YouTube is failing. It's not like YouTube is completely dying, and this is just the death throes. This is like how Blip was in the end. Like a lot of people, like, they never got like their last payout because I think they declared bankruptcy right before they closed, so they didn't have to do any of the final payouts for anybody. But I mean, YouTube is thriving just as much as it always has, and I know they like to pull the creative math about how they're constantly losing money and all this, and I think I think it's a lot of crap. I think it's like Hollywood math, where the Avengers made like $2 billion, and they're like, oh, we lost money. How? How did you lose money?
I mean, you did some intense marketing, but not that intense.
But with YouTube, I mean, they've got ads running in the millions, and you've got major companies that want to market with them. Coca-Cola, Honda, Budweiser, all these major companies that are just throwing money at them. And for them to constantly say that they're always working at a loss. Well, obviously, somebody needs to take a business class and learn how to run this company, because how are you running the number 2 most viewed site on the internet and losing money?
I'm assuming number 1 is Facebook?
No, Google.
Or Google. Okay, yeah, Google, YouTube, Facebook, something like that. Those are at least in the top five.
Yeah, I think
all of those. I'm assuming.
I think it's Google. I think it's, well, I know it's Google, then YouTube, and then I think it's Facebook is three. But it's hilarious because everybody talks about how big Google is, and they're talking about how well I guess Google is looking to they just they're gonna be bought by Disney, and it's like, I don't think you see the bigger picture. Google does own YouTube, but a company called Alphabet owns Google, and Alphabet's net worth is $560 billion. By comparison, Disney is $150 billion. Again, nothing to sneeze at, but when you look at the disparity of that, that is a like Alphabet could buy 2 Disneys with no problem.
Right.
And
people acting like Disney would be doing them a favor to buy them out and help a troubled company or something like that. It's not the case at all.
Yeah.
It's literally the kind of the opposite of that. It's like you said, they could buy out multiple of Disney if they really wanted to.
Exactly. So this whole them owning Google and them owning YouTube is ludicrous. And I think too, if they are going to say, okay, they're running YouTube and they're using it at they're at a loss, I think what they are getting is, again, with the Google data. Okay, maybe you're losing money on the bandwidth, or you're losing money on the servers, or you're losing money on the 3 people that you hire to actually staff the company. But what you are gaining is millions upon millions of amounts of data that you can then use, and then you can sell that and market that. So I think that even if YouTube is losing money, they are gaining a ton of money by just their soul sucking of data. Well, this person comes home and watches video game stuff from this to this, and so he's going to be interested in this, and they can sell that information to Activision, who then sees, oh, okay, well, we have this many people that like this stuff. Well, we need to make a game that markets to this thing, and it's just there's so many layers to this, and for them to act constantly like they're losing money is ridiculous.
And it's like they know how to. Yeah, I mean, they can get the recommended videos right pretty much of the time. I would say, in terms of like what's in my recommended feed, it's pretty on point with like what I've been watching and that sort of thing. And for them to be able to capitalize there, but not be able to translate that over to advertising, it doesn't really make all that much sense to me. But my final question here for you today, the final thing that I want to talk to you about is, what do you want to do? What are you hoping to see over the next few months? And if things continue the way that they are with the whole demonetization things, if it's something that you're constantly fighting, what are your plans for the future?
I hope that my hope is that they get their act together. They realize that their greatest asset is the you in YouTube, is all of these creators, all these people that are working really hard to continue to make YouTube what it is. The thing is, if they keep making it more and more difficult for the smaller channels are going to die out, and you're never going to get that next wave of creators, because why are you going to spend all this time working on YouTube when it's just not viable anymore?
Right.
I am lucky enough that I'm in a position where I have a big enough audience that is willing to help support me through Patreon, and it's still like not enough. Like, people are like, oh, well, how much money do you need? And I'm like, well, I can't really get into that. I'm like, because I am kind of beholden to my MCN talking about how much money I do pull in. But it's like they don't seem to understand, like, okay, yes, I am making currently $2,000 a month on Patreon, but $9,000 to $10,000 of that off the top goes towards taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what people don't understand, is the fact that you're not just profiting all that money. I mean, it's not just free money that you're not paying taxes on at the, come April next year, March next year, or whenever it comes tax time. There's a lot of money coming out of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of money coming in. I mean, that's like half right off the top. And then I'm like, okay, I pay, I have mortgage, I have a family, I have a son, I have a wife, I have a diabetic cat, I need to pay for groceries, and just all of this stuff adds up. And I said, really, I am at the point now where I was like after I got with the money that I was pulling in with YouTube and the money that I was pulling in from Patreon, I was making ends meet. Well, now with YouTube kind of being in flux, it's like thankfully some people were kind enough to give more money to my Patreon and kind of help keep me going, and that's also why I started up the Twitch channel, because it's always good to have multiple revenue streams.
Oh yeah.
And I got affiliated with there, and I'm trying to get partnered with there, because right now affiliate, they take 50% off the top, and I think with partnered they take like 20% or something, so it's more money in my pocket as far as like and I get a cut of like ad revenue, whereas with affiliate you get money from subscribers and bits. So and so, but so now I have, and I'm going to have another, I'm actually putting up a merchandise store very soon. So I'll be able to sell like t-shirts and stuff. So have like another revenue stream. But again, it's not about like, I'm not trying to be rich. I'm not trying to be like the next, Casey Neistat or some nonsense. I'm trying to do what I love and to be able to put food on the table. Like that's really all I want. Like I don't want to be, would it be nice to be famous? Yeah, but I'm not looking to be this massive force. I'm just looking to be a guy to kind of continue what I've been doing. I'm a guy who really likes movies and likes video games and likes talking about them, and I am passionate enough to be able to continue to do that, and thankfully have a fan base that is willing to support me when YouTube doesn't. So I have things in place that are kind of helping to keep me going. If YouTube just completely bottoms out, then hopefully what I've got coming in from Patreon and what I've got coming in from Twitch and what I've got coming in from t-shirt sales and whatnot is enough to kind of keep me going.
And it's all about the diversification, guys. If anybody's listening to this and you're thinking about starting your own channel, whether it be, movies, music, art, whatever else that you want to talk about, you got to keep that in mind. Is diversification can be a major key. I mean, you can start off on YouTube, but I feel like if you don't put yourself out there in other places, whether it just be a social media presence or a Twitch presence or whatever it might be, you can diversify your income where you are and appear online. But it's important because, like you said, I mean, I've got a merch store as well. I've got a Patreon. I've got YouTube. And fortunately, again, knock on wood, I haven't been hit too badly with any of the demonetization things. And the ones that I have had, I've been able to get resolved. But, it's a matter of putting yourself out there in a variety of different ways. And I think that that's the main way that you're able to sustain something like this as you kind of go the distance, because people like me and you who have been creating for, years and years and years now, it can get kind of soul sucking to see everything drop out in one place. But you don't think about the fact that it's like, okay, I can still make this work. I have this because I've already branched out here. I've already branched out here. I can still tie this together. Whereas right now, if you were sitting in the position of saying YouTube revenue, that was it, that's all I had, then you're pretty much screwed right then and there on the spot. But fortunately, it's not like that because you made the smart decision to branch out ahead of time.
Yeah, I got really lucky because, I mean, I'm not... I've had a long time to kind of do this and see what other people were doing and kind of learn from them, because I'm not like a business major. I have a little bit of background in radio, like, so
that's I do as well. That's actually pretty interesting.
Oh,
nice.
Cool. Yeah. It's just, well, it was like, there was a time when I was like, I want to get into radio. And then I found out that like radio is just is nowhere near where I want to go. Like, so I was like, all right, yeah, the whole having like a talking person who's like talk radio is just dying. And then it was really transitioning more towards the internet anyway. So I was like, okay, well, I can kind of do this and talk about what I like, as opposed to having to put on fake radio voice and, hey, we got this new song coming up, and just it's not what I want to be doing. So, but what I'm saying is that I know this. I know how to talk about movies. I know how to talk about video games. I know how to talk about a little bit. I occasionally did branch out a little bit into my past, but I usually kind of keep the channel focused on movies and whatnot, because I think that there's too many YouTubers. That was another thing too. Why I kind of stay off camera. I kind of like to be the narrator, because it helps to keep the focus on whatever I'm talking about, on movie, on the video game, or whatever. Whereas I think that a lot of YouTubers made it about themselves. They would, the first thing that you see is their face, and and they'll put on a skit or something before they get into the actual movie review. And I wanted to just keep the focus on the movie or whatever. But what I'm saying is that I am not a business major, and I've kind of been inadvertently forced to becoming one, learning how to do all this stuff, learning how to diversify, learning how to not just be all focused in one area, and learning all these other things, learning metadata, learning stuff to get your product out there. So it's just again falling under the it's not a real job, free money. That was hilarious. I saw somebody posted that, really, well, I guess there's no more free money. There never was. There never was any free money.
Who do you think is getting handed free money on YouTube, unless you're not lucky enough, but sinister enough, I guess, to upload other people's content and it's not being caught and you're just re-uploading stuff and somehow profiting off that? That's the only people that I could see earning any kind of free money on YouTube. Free money, like you said, doesn't exist. It's worked for, regardless of what you think the quality of the content is, or if you're like, oh wow, this is, like I could do this better myself. You see all those types of comments. But the fact of the matter is that there's people working towards something and putting their time in, and should be rewarded in return. And I did want to ask you this: have you ever done a face reveal?
No, I have met some folks at conventions and stuff, and I think that I'm going to kind of keep it that way. Like, I'm never going to do a face reveal on the channel or anything, but if I do continue to meet people, it'll be at conventions. And I was talking with some folks, and I think next year I might do like my first official like panel. I might see how things are going, and then try to get a panel at PAX. Or there's a video game convention around here called Too Many Games that just has blown up in recent years, and is a lot of fun, and a lot of people have done panels there. Angry Video Game Nerd, Pat the NES Punk, Alpha Megasin, have all been there. So I was thinking about maybe doing something like that, and that would be a way that I would be able to meet with fans, and fans could see what I look like, which to me I always think is funny, because I'm like, I'm your average white guy, I'm like really, you probably have passed me in the street like a million times, but people, they want to put a face to the name, or to the voice, and I guess I kind of get that a little bit, but I like I do enjoy the anonymity of it. Like, if I go, like in the times when I've met people at conventions, it's cool, and they, wow, I didn't, you're not exactly what I was expecting. I'm like, well,
Do they recognize you by a voice, or how are they finding you?
No, I've met there was a couple people from The Escapist who I've met, who I was like, hey, I'm going to be at PAX. I'm going to be at PAX too, and then we would say, hey, let's go, we would meet up at like they had like this past year, they had like a pre-PAX breakfast at the Behemoth booth. So I met some folks there, and met some fans. Like, I tweeted, hey, I'm at PAX, and they're like, oh my god, I have to come and say hi, and some developers like that I've met that were like, hey, I'm a fan of your stuff, I'd love to meet you. The band that does my intro, Psycho Stick, I went and was hanging out with them. Great bunch of guys. But but it hasn't. I mean, it's only been a handful of people. So so in a way, it's kind of nice because again, now I'm nowhere anywhere near the league of like James, the Angry Video Game Nerd, but like I know when he goes to like these conventions, he just get like if he's walking to the bathroom, he gets swamped.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Any
of these creators that have their face on screen and that people are knowing that they're at the convention.
Yeah. Hey, I know you. You're that. Please sign this. And I mean, and it's cool, but it's also like it's also nice to be able to just kind of go there and to just be anonymous.
Right. You're in the crowd and you can walk through and nobody's gonna say like, oh, there's Good,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nobody's gonna. I mean, it also. I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. I think like when it would kind of be exciting, but I think it would. And I'm not saying that would ever get annoying because I do think that's one thing where I've seen some people that just kind of take it for granted. And it's like, but look, man, these guys are your fans. They're your lifeblood. If you don't have that, then you're gonna you wouldn't be anybody. You'd be working at the gas station or whatever. So I do think that eventually as soon as next year probably I just have to work. I don't know. It's such a weird thing. Like and also there's a part of me that I don't want to like go through the trouble of setting up a panel, and this all goes back to me having crappy self-esteem, but I'll get a panel and I'm like, okay, I'm finally gonna be here and people can come see me, and there'll be like 2 people in the audience and one of them will be my wife.
Cheer, clapping, front row.
Yeah, woo, Cecil! I'm like, oh god, nobody cares.
Oh, I'm just gonna, all right guys, thanks for coming out, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I guess you get a personal show,
So what's the deal with airline food?
So what? Who are eating all these peanuts?
So since I'm a music channel, I'm a music nerd, you mentioned the band. I have to ask this because my viewers are probably going to be wondering. Anybody that also watches you mentioned the band that does your intro, outro music, that guitar-driven music. If you watch his videos, you're probably familiar with it. What kind of music are you into? Like, what are you loving? What do you think about the current state of music?
I mean, primarily, if you want to put it under like an umbrella, my what I listen to mostly is metal. And I'm talking all varieties of metal, thrash, just basic heavy, gothic, melodic, power. So really whatever I'm kind of in the mood for, that's primarily what I'm listening to. But I mean, I have a wide variety of stuff. I listen to 80s music. I'll listen to like some 90s pop. I'll listen to old school rap like Run DMC. I don't like the new, quote unquote rap, the Black Eyed Peas and all that stuff. And really the only stuff that I don't listen to new hip hop, and I don't listen to any country. But aside from that, I'm open to just about anything. I mean, I'll listen to Cannibal Corpse, and then I'll listen to the Spice Girls. So it's just that's primarily what I'm into. As far as the current state of music, the current state of pop music, I think is absolute garbage. But I think that there is a lot of music that is just not that is still really good, but it doesn't have the traction in the US like a Katy Perry or something. But I'll listen to baby metal. I'll listen to Mr. Children. I'll listen to something from out of the US that is really good. But as far as like what is getting the most traction within the US, Pitbull, it's all. I mean, I was looking at last night was the MTV Music Video Awards, and I'm looking at like the winners, and I'm like, I don't know any of these people.
That's how I feel sometimes, because I mean, like, I cover mainly on my channel more like alternative rock. There's some hip hop, but I'm totally not with this whole movement of just the whole auto-tuned half rap, half talk, half whatever the fuck it is, because it's just something that I can't stand for the most part. So I cover more like alternative rock and pop and that sort of thing. But I look through the Billboard Hot 100 charts sometimes, and I don't know who some of these people are. I really don't. I mean, a lot of the songs that are being hits these days are just because it's a viral trend or whatever it is. And I feel out of the loop, and that kind of is weird, being like a music critic and that sort of thing, just not knowing or just not caring enough because, you know, you'll listen to the little preview or something on iTunes and you're just like, well, that didn't sound appealing whatsoever. Why am I going to check out more music that sounds like that?
Yeah, there was an ad that was running at the movie theater for a while, and I don't remember the guy's name, but I believe it probably had like a little in front of it, and that almost guarantees that it's gonna suck. But it was like a Sprite ad where the guy was like, he's like, I'm gonna sing about Sprite, and it's like, I'll go drink my soda, and I'm like,
Lil Yachty.
Lil Yachty. Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
God.
is this? I had to talk to a buddy of mine who's like a little bit younger than me, and I'm like, dude, is that like real, or was that like the joke that? And he's like, no, that's like a real like guy. I'm like, that I could have sworn it was like a parody. I'm like, it was so bad.
The worst part is that it's actually a real song. He changed it to Cold Like a Sprite Soda. It's originally Cold Like Minnesota.
Oh my God. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't want to, that was the thing. I didn't want to look it up any further than that. I basically was like, okay, well, this completely sucks and this is real. All right. Yeah. I'm glad that, I don't listen to the radio. Like I listen to Pandora or like, you know, my what I have ripped on my computer, but ugh.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page that you know, I do my year-end countdowns and that sort of thing, and that song that you brought up there was number 2 on my worst songs of the year list last year. So, well, anyways, guys, that's our time for today. Thank you for coming on, Cecil. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed this conversation. I hope everybody listening enjoyed it as well. Branching out a little bit, getting somebody outside of the music community, get a little bit insight on YouTube, movies, even a little bit of music for you guys there at the end. I'll put timestamps in the description if you're curious about certain parts of the conversation, want to jump back to a certain part and that sort of thing. And Cecil, I'll plug for you. I'll put your YouTube channel. What else would you like? What's the best place for people to find you?
The YouTube channel, or if you want to put my Twitter and Twitch, you know, page up there is cool too. That's the 3 places that I'm the most.
Right, most active and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, if you like his content and you end up enjoying, make sure you subscribe to his channel. And, you know, if you feel really invested in it, help him out on Patreon. I know a lot of creators are going through this tough time on YouTube. So if you end up liking his content, consider supporting him there. Thanks for coming on today, man. And other than that, I'm John, and I'll see you for the next episode of Not a Podcast very soon. I've got Hoodie Allen and another very special guest on the way.